So, what is the primary reason for your antsiness as you shelter in place? Why is it so unendurably difficult to spend time at home alone, doing nothing but what you choose for yourself? In contrast to your previous existence, wherein you have had the majority of your waking days planned out by your employer, punctuated by mere moments of free time. I suspect it has much to do with knowing that, given time to think about it, something or things are not as they should be. An anxiety that can be all the more exacerbated when you do not know what that something is. So it's no wonder that you, quite unconsciously, choose one thing or another to be wrong. It matters not if it's some person or some place, some conspiracy of persons in certain places, or any undesirable condition whatsoever that might be perceived as such. But mind you, what truly renders that thing most untenable is the sheer force of your will for it to be so, as the perceiver. Now, that's not to say that the agitating person, place, or thing that you are perceiving is not really wrong, but that it's hardly ever the true source of your agitation. And rather than contemplate further what the true source of your agitation is within, which may be at some cost to your material ego and its vital yet insecure standing as you, such as you are, it becomes a seemingly more profitable effort at self-calming to externalize by projecting all frustration upon something or someone else. Usually something or someone which you are utterly helpless to change, which, ironically, makes it a worthy adversary about which to define yourself in contrast, and to exercise angst in perpetuity. But your angst is not merely situational. At risk of sounding melodramatic, I dare say that it is existential. Hence, said adversary will invariably be as indomitable by you as it is abominable to you. And like any self-fulfilling prophecy, conflicts aligning with your externalized issue or issues with this supposed adversary will be sought and found as your outward phantom is engaged as others, as if it is not really your more substantial inward condition that is the problem, and as others respond in kind to you for the same reason. And so, the stage is set for all that you see unfolding before your eyes as but a vaguely meaningful distraction from what is really going on behind your eyes. But circumstances such as these, where you are made to stay home and be with nothing but yourself, just you and yours. No more to fight than who you are. No more to fight it than who you should be. They are why isolation does not serve you well. Because all this time, all you have needed was something to distract you, and it is by design that you have always had it. But now, there can be little avoidance of the fact that there is more than one you. There is the imperfect and unfinished you that you are, and the comparatively more perfect and adorable you that you on some level are striving to be, or at least present to the world. There is also the vast cast of characters spanning from the range between the former and the latter, and they are not always the best of friends. So what to do when there seems to be nothing and no one upon which to project the recalcitrant tragedy and recalculated triumph that is you? When it must be faced that there is nothing more bothersome than you, as well, nothing more bothered by you than you. I say, pray. And when I speak of prayer, I mean not to allude to the mere intellectual concession to some culturally derived postulate as to the reality of a being to pray to, such as God. Time in and around this world reveals that you may pray to anything. You can even pray to nothing in particular. And that, in and of itself, is but a conscious projection of your own yearning for personal relation to deity, or the lack thereof, though that relationship itself is largely unconscious, no matter what you claim to believe. Rather, instead, do I draw upon the fundamental presumption as to the reality of a being who prays, a being such as yourself. There would seem to be no questioning the fact that you are real, no doubting the reality of the friends and family and associates that you have encountered throughout your sojourn in this life. As mere things in a world of things, your existence would seem to be undeniable. But you are only personally real to others to the extent that they personally know you, just as they are to you in like fashion. As you are known to others, you become part of the personal reality of who they are. And as others become known to you, they become part of the personal reality of you. Granted, this is a subjective reality, but it is real and inestimably impactful nonetheless. It is in this way and for this reason that others remain known and noble to you, even when you are no longer operating in regular association. You say that you remember each other when you are apart, when in actuality, what you can remember of each other is all that you had ever known, and is at least as much a part of you as it ever was them. For all, from the Creator down to the creation, it is by this very process of knowing and being known by others that personality manifests as a reality in the universe. You can only be a good person in actuality because you have been good to others. So you, as such a personality, very much rely upon contact with other personalities for continued development. This is why young children, in the absence thereof, will often imagine such others in which to associate and in the integration of their own personal attributes. And this brings us soundly back to the matter of prayer. If nothing more, the conscious act of praying serves to deliberately develop an alter ego, a God identity, if you will, though I would just as soon call it a soul. For all that you may choose or choose not to debate about with who is God, and there could be no meaningful argument as to the very best version of yourself and how that should be. And so prayer becomes a way of communing and even commiserating with a more perfect you, and its struggle to manage your imperfections as well as negotiate your imperfect circumstances. It hardly matters if the things you ask for in prayer are granted by way of some miracle, because the real breakthrough is in your willful choice to open up to higher realities, even to your own inner potential. To acknowledge that potential, to commit to actualizing it in your own day-to-day life. See, there's no special way to pray or thing to pray for. That is a matter that should remain as private as it is personal. Prayer need not be a performance meant to impress others or an emphatic statement of faith in some religious doctrine. What prayer does need to be is sincere. True burning questions often are answered when prayer takes you to a place of receiving. The very act of asking for what is needed achieves conscious recognition of that need and therefore propels you ever closer to its satisfaction. You may even begin to notice in the very process of prayer that you could be more sincere, particularly when you are praying and it's centered around complaints about others. And by that very sincerity, you find solutions to problems that may have vexed you previously. But like children, when formulating their imaginary friends, you will need someone to pattern your alter ego after, a role model upon which to base your God identity. So who do you know or know of that could represent to you the perfect personality to focalize upon in prayer. Christians clearly have an advantage in the acceptance of Jesus as that perfect person to pray to and through, even if not always to imitate in their every choice of thought, word, and action. And I can tell you from experience that it works, and it works for a reason. But if you had to deem someone else worthy of basing your God identity on, who would that person be? Because you see, the mighty fulcrum of prayer is personality. The more personal, the more satisfying and effective. As with any practice done often enough, prayer becomes a habit that does serve you well. A wise response to any discomfort, summoning the best of you to meet challenges constructively. The real miracle being how consistently it does just that. In the final analysis, prayer is a way of attaining mastery over your own mind. Finding spiritual assistance in doing so, you will discover that self-mastery from the inside out, in contrast to self-discipline from the outside in, leads to true and lasting mastery in life. It is the conception of a master in you, that is you, becoming more personally real, that thereby conquers fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which are the only things that really are wrong that you can do anything about. And also, prayer is the manner in which these words were received.